Hello, everybody. Welcome on into Fox 10 Talks. I'm Marc Martinez.
And I'm Ellen McNamara. Happy Monday. Hope you guys all had a great weekend.
Yeah, Halloween was on Saturday. You guys, or Friday. You guys busy with trick-or-treaters at your house?
Yeah, we were. And I brought in a lot of candy into the newsroom.
You did. Thank you for that. You brought in the good stuff.
I did bring in the good stuff because I don't want it at my house.
Yeah.
I want it all away from me because otherwise I'm going to eat it. So
Sour Patch Kids,
yes.
Trolli. Yeah, we're stocked up in the
Skittles,
newsroom.
all the sugar.
Yes,
Yep.
Sugar rush in the newsroom, that's for sure.
No doubt.
Well, on this day, Monday, it is the 34th day now of the government shutdown.
Yep.
And tomorrow, if the government continues to be shut down, which doesn't look like there's really any end in sight, that will tie the record that was set in 2018 going into 2019 for 35 days.
Yeah, I know. And so basically, just to give you some background right now, 1.4 million federal workers are not getting paid. Some of them are furloughed. Some of them are just not getting paid at all.
Right.
And that is going to continue. Now, we have heard from the Senate Majority Leader saying that he is optimistic that there might potentially be a deal this week. We don't know. And there might be a vote, a 14th vote to try to get this solved, to pass the continuing resolution tomorrow. But they've already had 13 votes with no success. Seems
both sides are really dug in at this point. Doesn't seem like a lot of negotiating, if any, going on, especially not on the House side.
Right.
Let's take a listen to a soundbite right now where we stand with the latest on this shutdown.
Time on the golf course, including this weekend, than he has in talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill.
It is the Democrats who created Obamacare. It is the Democrats who did that without any Republican votes. It's the Democrats who, by extension, have cost the American taxpayers and people who have health insurance have made their costs skyrocket. It is their policies that made that happen. And so instead of reforming it, the Democrats don't reform Obamacare. They want to subsidize it. They want to spend more taxpayer dollars. That, by the way, goes mostly to insurance companies, which makes the cost rise further. That's the Democrats' plan. When they passed Obamacare in 2010, they called it the Affordable Care Act. We know the truth is exactly the opposite.
And so that's really been the sticking point for Democrats, the subsidies for Obamacare, to continue those subsidies at least for another year.
Right.
And the Republicans are saying, let's pass the CR and then we'll deal with that later. But a lot of Democrats don't trust that will actually happen and that those subsidies will go away.
Right. And this is coming at a time, too, when people are shopping for health care.
Right.
And so they are seeing right now what their health care costs would look like in the coming year. And the price tag is not looking good for a lot of people. So the Democrats are they're holding firm right now because they're saying, well, hey, this is what you're going to be paying. And people are already freaking out about those costs. And so they're saying, well, hey, this is a negotiating tactic.
And a lot of people are posting those numbers on social media once they're finding out what their costs will be without the subsidy. So that is kind of like in black and white, you're seeing those numbers.
Right. And it's a tactic. That's what they have right now.
Now, another big place that's being affected by the shutdown is airports all across the country because of air traffic controllers, as we mentioned, not getting paid right now. Some of them aren't going to work. Some of them are picking up other jobs like Uber and DoorDash and things like that to make ends meet.
Yeah. And, something, too, about I think, too, we have to kind of keep this in context is we always talk about this, too, when we talk about savings for people. The majority of Americans do not have $1,000 for an emergency expense. Right. They just don't. So, if a car breaks down or if there is an emergency expense at the hospital, they don't have $1,000 saved to cover that. So if someone is not getting paid in a family, that really does make a difference. And they certainly, if they don't have $1,000 saved and they're not getting paid, this is certainly devastating.
It's a dire situation out there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit more about the air traffic controller situation and how it is impacting airports across the country. And we want to go now to Asher Red, who is at the airport in Nashville, to give us some perspective there. Asher, what's going on there, and are there delays that you're seeing? What's going on?
Well, Mark and Ellen, everything was a catastrophe this weekend. About 22% of the flights here in Nashville that were leaving were delayed, and about a quarter of those flights that were arriving to Nashville were also seeing delays. But right now, everything's going smoothly. Now, on Friday, the FAA reported staffing shortages at 35 facilities, including at major airports in your neck of the woods of Phoenix, Austin, Texas, New York, and of course, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, from Friday morning to Sunday night, 98 FAA facilities reported what's called staffing triggers. In other words, air traffic controllers had to alter operations because not enough people were working. Now, on Sunday, the FAA issued a temporary ground delay for all flights arriving to Nashville because of staffing shortages. There were also ground stops at LAX in Los Angeles and Newark Airport in New Jersey over the weekend because of staffing issues at air traffic control towers. Now, in a statement, the FAA tells me, quote, "As we continue to reiterate, we will never compromise on safety. When staffing shortages occur, the FAA will reduce the flow of air traffic to maintain safety. This may result in delays or cancellations," end quote. Nearly 13,000 air traffic controllers and 60,000 TSA agents have been working without pay since the government shut down on October the 1st. And some travelers are fed up with this.
They were looking for like if we can change the flight, the late flight, but I said no, we can't do that.
My son is traveling because he's like business travel, and all the time he's dealing.
And air traffic controllers are considered essential staff and must work through government shutdowns despite not getting paid. But Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says some controllers are calling out sick, or some are even calling out of work altogether to work other jobs that are actually paying them. Back to you.
That's what we were talking about. I mean, putting food on the table for a lot of these families, you've got to do what you got to do. So they're putting some of these air traffic controllers in a really tough spot because they're running out of money if they had any funds set aside for this.
Yeah, no doubt. I know, Asher, you talked about this weekend and how, you said a catastrophe. That was the word that you used over the weekend. And it looks pretty busy behind you right now. So Monday, obviously a big travel day too. Has it improved at all today that you have noticed at all?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's better today than it was this weekend. And when I use the word catastrophe, I'm talking about the amount of delays that we had. We had 200 delays at this airport over the weekend, and that's a lot when you consider the size of this airport. Now, behind me is the TSA lines. I know this airport like the back of my hand. I fly in and out of it all the time. And I can tell you the line was probably the busiest I've seen it earlier today. And then just off to the left, my left, you can't see it on camera, but there's a huge line at the airport information desk. I'm assuming all these people are waiting for something, but I can't say for sure if it's delays, but it would make sense if it was. I was speaking with some people earlier who did have some delays. People like you heard earlier on this story, people who were asked to go to a later flight, but they just simply can't because they have to work tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, Asher, thank you very much. Asher Red reporting for us from Tennessee, from Nashville, at the airport there. We want to take a look at Sky Harbor Airport because we are experiencing delays there as well. Here's a live look at the airport. I was just checking on Sky Harbor's website. They have 58 delayed flights right now, 2 canceled flights, and some of these delays are quite significant. There's one American Airlines that was supposed to take off today. That's now going out tomorrow morning. And then there's some delays that are 6 or 7 hours long. So if you are traveling, definitely check ahead.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sounds like a lot of people are aware of what's going on as far as that there will be impacts at the airport. So it's always a good idea to check in advance. But in this case, we really go online and find out what's going on with your flight, because this trickle-down effect that we were seeing, as Asher was talking about, it's really expanding across the entire airport system.
Right, I know. And I know, like Sean Duffy, too, has said potentially that these air traffic controllers could be punished. But I haven't heard any more of that. He said that earlier, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, something like
when
that.
it first started.
There's been a little backlash once he said that, but I haven't heard anything since then.
Yeah, he was essentially saying, like, do your job kind of thing. And but when people started seeing pay stubs that air traffic controllers were posting in the past week or so with nothing on it at all for their 40 to 80 hours or whatever they were working that shift, that was a very stark reminder of what's going on here, and how many people would be willing to keep going to work,
Right.
not getting paid.
Right.
I did see a air traffic controller who was interviewed, and he was saying what we have to think about is they have to be right 100% of the time every day.
Right.
And so he said the job stress is intense, and they're told kind of leave it at the door when you go home. But he said it's so hard to leave that behind when you're going home and you're not getting paid.
Right.
And now you've got financial stress on top of it. He said those two combined are really, a recipe for disaster. And you think about that too. They've got to be so sharp in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want them worrying about food
Right.
or paying the bills,
Yeah, I know.
So-
And we've also seen too that a number of people, a number of airports anyway, like Minneapolis, St. Paul, they've been organizing food drives for some of their employees, air traffic control, TSA, for example. And a number of these employees have been using those food banks because of the situation right now. So you really do feel for these employees.
Yeah, he said, again, just to reiterate, 13,000 air traffic controllers and then 60,000 TSA workers.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't really thought about the TSA part of it as far as, if those folks are also not going to be able to show up for work because they might be doing side gigs to pay the bills, then you're going to have a situation where you're seeing the security lines stack up, like Asher was mentioning there as well.
If you are watching us right now on Fox 10 Talks and you have flown recently, let us know what your experience has been. You can just let us know in the channel. Just, send us a message. Let us know kind of, if you experienced a delay or if you saw that maybe there were fewer staff members showing up. Just send us a message.
Little philosophy saying that they're too scared to fly, so they're not traveling anytime soon.
Yeah.
So not have to worry about the delays at the airport, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, again, hopefully they can figure the shutdown out, sooner rather than later. And again, we heard that potentially there could be some kind of agreement on the continuing resolution potentially this week. But as we said, both sides, Democrats, Republicans, have really dug in.
Yeah.
And we really don't see kind of a compromise. And actually, President Trump was on 60 Minutes just Sunday. And the last time the government shutdown happened under his watch, he did step in and kind of help negotiate a little bit. And Nora O'Donnell asked him and said, hey, would you help would you help out right now with the negotiation? And he said no. He kind of was blaming Chuck Schumer on the Democratic side on this one. And he said, why should I negotiate if Chuck Schumer is not going to bend? And that's what he said.
When you've got two sides that are both dug in like
Correct.
this, somebody's going to have to step up and do some negotiating, or this is going to continue. All right.
Yeah.
And the on deck circle over here, we've got Richard Saenz. He's going to be joining us coming up after the break to talk all things World Series and more. Stay with us.
Keep it here.
All right, we are back. And as promised, Richard Saenz is joining us.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
It's been a busy several weeks for you, but the World Series was over the weekend. What a game. I mean, what a series. The entire thing was so good.
I think the best World Series, other than when the Diamondbacks beat the Yankees, I think the best World Series ever. I mean, this was, I think it was so well played by both teams. It's kind of a bummer that somebody had to lose because Toronto played well enough to win. They were fantastic all year. They were a great story. Of course, the Dodgers, the best team money can buy. D-back fans not too happy with that.
Yeah.
But boy, I mean, the way the clutch hitting, the pitching, guys like Ohtani, you know, making history, and the way it went down, extra innings, 18 innings in one game, and then it was just, and the defense. It's amazing how it always comes down to defense and clutch plays, clutch hitting. The managers making tough calls. I mean, it had it all.
Yeah, there was. I was game sevens. I mean, there were a couple like really, really key moments.
I know.
So like Dave Roberts put this guy in
Rojas.
Rojas
Pages in center field.
Put the guy in center field, and like the next play, he made this incredible catch.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances?
And it's funny because a lot of Dodger fans have been calling for Robert's head.
Yes.
And saying, this guy makes it so many.
Now they're like, it's fine.
Well, now you got 3 World Series titles. He's like, what more do you want from this guy?
Yes.
And he was like a mad scientist, right? He was just mixing everything just right. And that was a good one. And then bringing in Rojas to pinch hit, who gets the home run in the 9th to send it. And then in the bottom of the 9th, it's Rojas who makes the play at second base that goes home. It was Dalton Varsho, a former Diamondback, at the plate for Toronto.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying, why did the D-backs trade Varsho to Toronto? Well, we got Lourdes Gurriel and Miguel Montero. So that was a good trade for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Good trade for Toronto, too. And then a lot of people say, well, why didn't he bunt? And that's a big, decision that they didn't make, because they could have bunted and, had to at least, give him a sacrifice and bring in a run. Those are bang-bang plays, But Rojas, again, hadn't played. And that's one thing about, if you're a young kid out there and you're a backup, you always got to be ready. You always got to be thinking, okay, what happens if I come in? Or if you're out in the field, you got to be thinking, okay, what happens if the ball comes to me, right? Bases loaded, 1 out. Do you try to go for the double play? He could have, but then if they don't get the double play and the run scores, so just go home, get the sure out, and then, see what happens.
And I mean, that was like a millimeter.
I know.
That throw to home.
All
and
right.
People are still talking about it. If some are saying if he had not slid, if he had run through, that he probably would have been safe. But you don't know.
Exactly.
It's like woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah, and then it ends on a double play by, Mookie Betts. By the way, do you know what Mookie's middle name is?
It's L, right?
Lynn. Mookie Lynn. MLB are his initials. She's good. She's good. She's good. Wow. And so and he was having like a tough series because remember that 18-inning game where they kept walking Ohtani? It was to walk Ohtani to get to Betts, who hadn't been hitting. So a lot of people were getting, I'm like, Mookie Betts is a great player. Give the guy a break,
Yeah.
Toronto's a good team. They won 94 games, so they have a good pitching staff. And then for it to come down to him to get the double play to end the game, it was just so well. It was like a Hollywood script.
Yeah.
Where were you when you were watching on Saturday?
I was at home, and it's funny because I'm like, wow, the Dodgers are going to lose. Toronto's going to win this thing. And then with the home run, because Rojas, I mean, the guy hadn't hit a home run in over a month.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, but Dave Roberts said he had a gut feeling, and sometimes, a lot of people talk about analytics and all this. The old school guys go, I got a gut feeling. This guy's he's due. And he came when he hit that home run. I'm like, God!
I was going to ask you about that. The analytics about during the game, how much of that plays into these choices that they're making. But it sounds like sometimes it's just what the old school rules the day. Like it's you go with your gut.
Yeah, and you got to have a mix, kind of because the analytics works. That's been proven, right? But there's sometimes where you go with your gut feeling, like you say. And this time for Dave Roberts, it happened with the Pages coming into center field, and then Rojas, who ended up making the throw home as well right after coming with the big hit. So. I mean, it was just such a great baseball's such a great sport, right? I mean, when you look at all the different cultures too, you had Ohtani and Yamamoto from Japan. You had kind of Falefa, the guy that was out at home from Hawaii. Then you got guys from New York, and you got all over the world. Venezuela, Mexico is so cool.
I grew up in Southern California, so when I was a kid, we would go to Dodger games. Not all the time; it was about an hour away from our house, but there was just nothing like being there. Right. Especially at Dodger Stadium with the sun's going down, and you got the Dodger dogs, and it's just being there is so cool.
Yeah.
And their fan base is definitely been loyal over the years.
Yes.
But it was interesting. I was watching on Saturday at a restaurant, and it wasn't like a sports bar place, but everyone suddenly like gravitates towards the TVs.
Yes.
And was just, people who were there eating was just like captivated by this.
Yeah.
Even people who maybe not huge sports fans were just into this, which was great.
Yeah.
We were also at a restaurant too, and so we had a diehard. She had grown up in LA, and she had her Dodgers gear on, and her husband was not like as into it. And it was so funny. And so when Toronto went up, she started cussing. Like she was just like cussing, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna lose," And her husband was like, "Oh, negative Nancy over there,"
That's funny.
And my husband Marcus was like, they're not out of it. Like, lady, like this, they went to 18 innings the last time. And sure enough,
and that's the great thing about sports, right? The roller coaster of emotions. Even ASU football fans, Sam Levitt out for the year, and it was like, oh no, we're done. Then Jeff Sims, the backup quarterback, who is a legit quarterback. You got to remember, at one point, Sam Levitt and Jeff Sims were actually battling to see who would be the starter last year. Not till Camp T was really when Sam Levitt separated himself. So Jeff Sims is a legit quarterback. He just hadn't had, a head coach for the same year, 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. So, he hadn't really had a full week of practice. And I think you got to give credit to Kenny Dillingham and that ASU coaching staff because they kind of catered the game plan to his skill set. He's a better runner than he is a passer, but he can still pass. But he's obviously a really good runner. Next thing you know, he sets the ASU rushing record for a quarterback. 228 yards rushing in one game. Yeah. They win. And then when you look at the rest of their schedule, a 9-win season. If they win the bowl game, another 10-win season is a possibility here. That was a huge win for ASU.
Yeah, I know. I think Robbie was like, "Hey, win it for the Gipper."
Exactly.
But they certainly perform. I mean, it was like it wasn't just a kind of a fluke. It didn't look like a fluke.
No, and that is proof that when Kelly Dillingham came, you could tell he was changing the culture. Right, he was drafting or recruiting, young kids that were not only good players but good people, right? And they have bought in. And I think the success he had last year early, when you see the proof is in the pudding, they buy in even more. Mm-hmm. And then that was one of those you can call a culture win, right? Mm-hmm. Where kids say, no, we're going to keep fighting. We know what we can do. Yes, we lost Sam Levitt. We don't have Jordan Tyson, who was going to be the first receiver taken in the draft. Mm-hmm. And then to win that game, and then you get a couple guys healthy because they got a bye week. Who knows what could happen? Yeah.
And so do you think Levitt, I know there's kind of been talk, do you think Levitt will come back to ASU, or there's already kind of been talk that maybe he might...
Right. I think
NIL money might lure him somewhere else after he heals, potentially.
Exactly. And that's the crazy part, right?
Yeah.
About the NIL stuff, because it was for so long, it was like, oh, no way, these kids shouldn't get paid. And now it's just like free for all. Yeah, everybody gets paid. At least the NFL has a salary cap. It's kind of funny. But I mean, that's always a possibility. Yeah. But also his relationship with Kenny Dillingham and the fact that, when nobody really believed in him, it was Kenny Dillingham and ASU that gave him a chance. You got to wonder how much that weighs in. But, if it's $10 million more, I don't know. It's a ridiculous amount of money now. Even Kenny Dillingham might say, look, man, you got to go. This is life-changing money. Who knows? But I think he would like to finish what he started here. It also all depends on who else is coming back, or if they got good receivers coming in where he feels, okay, I think I have a chance to do something special here and help my draft position, because I think there were some people thought he might come out at the end of this year. Yeah. But I think because of the way the season ended, and so there's so many good quarterbacks coming out in the NFL draft this year, I think if he waits one more year, his draft stock will rise even more. Yeah,
and that's the other thing too. When you look at college football and you look at some of these teams, I mean, some of the linemen, on certain teams, they look like they're ready to play in the NFL. Right. I mean, they just do, and some of the other guys.
That's called the University of Alabama. Or Clemson.
Right, or Ohio State. Exactly. Or you just look at them and you're like, wow, those dudes are going to go to the NFL like tomorrow. Right. Where, no offense, some guys on ASU, they don't look like that. Right. They just don't, or some guys, on, I don't know, on,
New Mexico State or New Mexico or wherever.
Yeah. They just don't, you know.
But it's funny, and I think that what the transfer portal has done is there are like a select few that are on those teams that somehow got lost in the cracks. But now with the transfer portal, they can transfer to where all of a sudden Ohio State or these bigger schools like, hey, this guy is legit. Come on over. And they're like, okay, but better late than never. So it's kind of interesting how that has happened over the years and the changing landscape in college athletics. So it's been crazy. But on any given day, any team team can beat another. Look at last night when the San Antonio Spurs came to town with Victor Wembanyama, 7'5". The guy looks like AI. It doesn't even look like he's real. And the Spurs have been beating everybody, and then the Suns just handed it to him.
Yeah.
And they held Wembanyama at only 9 points. I was there. He actually had to like duck before because he was about to hit the like air duct. Like it's just amazing to see him walk by, and it's just like, wow, this is a real human being. And then he could dribble behind his legs and between his legs and behind his back and stuff. It's just amazing.
Would he fit in your RV?
That would be crazy.
Would he fit in rolling with Richard?
Can you imagine? Yeah, I should try to get him in the MG too.
Oh, that would be good. Cruising around with him.
I went to a game in San Antonio, and they have like a life-size post of him on the wall, and you can actually stand next to it and see how you measure it.
Wow.
Everybody just comes up to his waist.
Wow.
It's so interesting, but that was a really good win for the Suns last night. They played some defense, and Devin Booker had 28 points, 13 assists. He's going to be a distributor, and they didn't even have Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green, so those were two key figures, two key guys that came over in the Kevin Durant trade. And once they get healthy, you never know. The one thing I've noticed about the Suns is they're going to hustle. Yeah. They're going to play defense. They're going to play hard all 4 quarters. Where last year, when we saw them get down, a lot of guys were like, we'll get them tomorrow. And that's not the case this year. And even Devin Booker kind of alluded to that in the post-game press conference. He's like, after a couple of those losses, our locker room is so healthy, those losses they didn't get to us.
Yeah. And what do you attribute that to? Just like the coaching? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Coaching,
cool.
Different players.
Good.
Sometimes it's addition by subtraction. Nothing against Kevin Durant or any of those guys. But when you get guys that are younger and they're hungry and they're not going to give up, that kind of stuff is infectious. It's contagious.
It's awesome.
Well, it's a quick turnaround, though, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that mindset, it can get ingrained. So that's good to see that it didn't linger.
Exactly.
And that they're turning things around there.
Yeah.
And the fan base seems really excited. Actually, for all of our teams right now, it's kind of exciting to see all the support that they're getting. And
and then tonight we have the Arizona Cardinals in action. No Kyler Murray. Well, it's kind of interesting because they were saying we kind of got a hint of it earlier in the week where Kyler Murray was not throwing to the first-team receivers. It was Jacoby Brissett, who was the backup, kind of like ASU, right? It's kind of funny how both football teams have kind of had similar situations, but ASU has bounced back, and Jacoby Brissett played well in the last 2 games before the bye week, well enough to win, and the offense seemed to be clicking a little bit better than when Kyler Murray